explored a contradiction that many carry quietly. The belief that love means always reaching out, always explaining, always holding on, that silence means loss, that detachment means indifference. But now you know something deeper. Sometimes silence isn't abandonment. It's a nervous system trying to breathe. It's a heart asking for space, not out of disinterest, but out of overload. And if he is also doing no contact, then maybe it's not a rejection of you, but a reflection of his own limits. You spend enough time trying to be heard by someone who isn't listening. The shift now is subtle, sacred, from waiting to witnessing, not him, you. This is where your healing lives, not in reaction, not in performing, not in proving, but in choosing your own voice again. That woman who once begged, explained, chased, she's not weak. She's waking up. And you, right here, are no longer someone needing to be rescued. You are someone who remembers her value in the quiet. Stillness isn't silence. It's where your clarity lives now. We're taught that if someone chooses someone else over us, we've failed, that we weren't enough, didn't do enough, didn't fight hard enough. But that's the contradiction. Love doesn't always reward effort. Sometimes the more you over-deliver, explain, justify, prove your worth, the more connection erodes. Not because you're wrong, but because you're reaching from fear instead of grounded self-respect. The truth is, when someone chooses another woman, it feels like a rupture, a tearing of something sacred, and your first instinct may be to fix it, to compete, to hold on tighter, thinking love is something you win. But real love isn't won through performance. It's received through presence, safety, and mutual desire. The internal conflict comes quietly. Do I let go with dignity or fight to be chosen again? But the deeper question is this: who are you when you stop trying to convince someone to see your worth? There's an emotional contrast that defines this moment. On one side, panic, chasing, bargaining, the attempt to outrun rejection. On the other, stillness, clarity, self-trust, the quiet power of knowing that being left doesn't mean you're less. Letting him go doesn't mean you lost. It means you no longer settle for being an option in someone else's story when you were always meant to be the main character in your own. If he chooses another woman, you didn't lose him. You released the version of you that needed to be chosen to feel worthy. When someone you love chooses another woman, it doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of reality. Suddenly, the narrative you were building together splits. And while everyone around you might say, let him go, they rarely explain how to do that without tearing yourself apart in the process. This isn't just a story of heartbreak. It's a story of emotional systems, the patterns that govern the relationship before the ending, and the ones you must now rewire to heal. Let's look at the psychology beneath the pain and why, if he chose someone else. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Let's start with something few people talk about: emotional flooding. In our research at the Gottman Institute, we've found that when people experience relational trauma, such as betrayal or abandonment, their heart rate can spike to over 100 beats per minute. When that happens, your body goes into fight or flight mode. Your capacity for rational thought narrows. You're not just hurting, you're flooded, which means you're physiologically unable to make grounded decisions. This is why you might feel the urge to call, text, compare yourself to her, or even plead. But what feels like Clarity seeking is often a biological panic response. So before anything else, your job isn't to figure out why he chose her. It's to self-soothe, to regulate, breathe, move your body, step away from the phone. You don't need answers until your nervous system is steady enough to hold them. Now let's talk about bids for connection. In every relationship, people make bids, small or large, attempts to connect, a sigh, a question, a touch, a moment of shared humor. In healthy relationships, these bids are met, or at least acknowledged. But when a partner begins turning away from bids, connection begins to break down. You may have noticed this before he left. He didn't laugh at your jokes anymore. He stopped asking how your day was. He was on his phone at dinner. And what did you do? You probably leaned in harder, more effort, more understanding, more flexibility. Here's your first aha insight. The more you over PR to save the relationship, the more invisible you felt. And that's not on you. It's how emotional imbalance works. When one partner pulls away, the other tends to compensate. But connection isn't something one person can carry. Now, let's go deeper into the 4 horsemen. These are the most predictive behaviors of relational breakdown: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. If he became critical, distant, or dismissive toward the end, if you began walking on eggshells, those horsemen were already galloping. Often people leave emotionally before they leave physically. And here's the second aha insight. When someone chooses another person, it usually means they've stopped doing emotional repair. Not that you weren't enough. Love doesn't erode overnight. It erodes when one or both partners stop turning toward each other's needs. If he chose another woman, it likely happened after a long stretch of emotional withdrawal. Now here's a powerful tool, a behavior, insight, healing loop. Behavior: you obsessively scroll his new partner's page or replay their last conversation in your mind. Insight: you're trying to regulate the pain by gathering information, as if understanding will restore your sense of worth. Healing: pause, label the feelings, say, this is grief, this is comparison, this is fear. Then offer yourself 3 self-activations. It's okay to feel this way. I am not replaceable. I am unique. My value didn't decrease because someone couldn't hold it. This loop rewires the brain towards self-trust, not external validation. Now let's reframe a toxic pattern, a common one. The belief that if I were better, more fun, more attractive, more agreeable, he would have stayed. Let's reframe it. Your value was never dependent on his ability to recognize it. Think of it this way. If someone is looking through a fogged up lens, it doesn't matter how brightly you shine. They won't see you clearly, not because you're dim, but because their perception is clouded. So what do you do now? You detach, not with bitterness, but with consciousness, with clarity. Detachment isn't giving up. It's giving yourself back the energy you were pouring into a closed door. It restores your boundaries, your emotional dignity, your center. You stop explaining, you stop proving, you stop checking if he regrets it, and you start remembering, I am not someone who lost. I am someone who is learning to stay with herself, no matter who leaves. Letting him go doesn't mean you didn't love deeply. It means you love yourself enough not to compete with a choice that wasn't about you in the first place. Her name was Elena, 37, thoughtful, empathetic, the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthdays, even the ones who forgot hers. When she met Adrian, she wasn't looking to fall in love, but he made her laugh. He listened to her talk about her father's illness without changing the subject. He texted every morning with "coffee yet?" like it was a ritual. They built a rhythm. Dinners, weekends away, soft glances across a crowded room. But something started to shift, almost imperceptibly. His texts got shorter. His attention wandered. She began feeling like she was talking to someone standing at the edge of the room, halfway out the door. Then one night, she remembers it because it was raining, he said he needed time to figure things out. And days later, she saw it, a tagged photo, him at a bar, his arm around another woman. The caption read, "Unexpected turns." Elena didn't sleep that night. She opened her phone, started to type. Something long, raw, meant to shake him awake. "I deserve at least a conversation. After everything, how could you?" But halfway through, she stopped. Her thumb hovered over the blinking cursor. Her chest was tight. Her throat ached with all the words that hadn't been said. And then, like a whisper from somewhere deeper than her pain, she heard it. "Don't beg someone to return to a place they chose to leave." She deleted the message. It wasn't a moment of triumph. It was a moment of surrender. Quiet. Tired, but clear. She sat on the edge of her bed, listening to the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the soft tick of the wall clock, and her own breath, shaky, but steadying. That was the night she stopped performing for someone who had already changed the channel. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she started loving her own peace more. In the weeks that followed, she found herself walking more, not to clear her head, but to feel her feet on the ground. She changed her phone background from a photo of them to a quote that said, "Let it be." She told her therapist for the first time, "I'm tired of proving I'm enough." That was her mere realization. He didn't choose her because I lacked something. He chose her because he lacked the capacity to grow with me. She didn't need revenge or an apology or for him to come back and realize she was the best thing that ever happened to him. She just needed herself, the version of her that wasn't constantly negotiating for love, the version that didn't confuse being chosen with being valued. And that's the real win. She didn't lose him. She let go of the part of her that thought she had to beg to be loved. When someone you love chooses another woman, the pain doesn't just live in your heart. It lives in your body, your thoughts, your nervous system. And in those first days or weeks, your mind may start spinning. What did she have that I didn't? What did I miss? Could I have saved it? It's in these moments that emotional intelligence isn't just helpful, it's life-saving. You need tools that ground you, soothe you, and restore clarity. Not so you can get him back, but so you can get yourself back. Here are 4 tools rooted in clinical insight and real-world application, designed to help you return to peace, power, and presence. Born the 60-second pause before reacting. This is a Gottman research intervention for emotional flooding. When you find yourself panicking, whether it's after seeing a photo, hearing news, or replaying a conversation, your body goes into a physiological response. Heart racing, shallow breathing, tunnel vision. That's flooding. And we've found that when heart rates go above 100 BPM, most people lose the ability to communicate effectively or think clearly. Here's the tool. Pause for 60 seconds. Put down your phone. Sit or stand still. Take a deep breath in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Repeat. The exhale must be longer. This calms the vagus nerve and signals your body that you're safe. During that minute, don't try to solve anything. Your only goal is to calm the system. This minute can prevent days of regret. You can say to yourself, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I don't have to respond from here to name it to tame it. This comes from the work of Dr. Dan Siegel, and it aligns with our Gottman research on emotional attunement. When you experience a surge of emotion, jealousy, shame, grief, don't suppress it. Label it. Say aloud or write down, this is heartbreak. This is rejection. This is abandonment fear. Why does this help? Because when you label the emotion, the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, activates. You are no longer in the emotion, you are observing it. That creates enough distance for clarity to return. It may seem simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools for emotional regulation we know. 3, try this tonight. A self-worth restoration ritual. Get quiet, journal the answer to this prompt. What did I give today that I didn't receive in return? It could be patience, loyalty, presence, grace, energy. Once you've listed those things, write this. Was I offering these out of love or to earn belonging? This exercise uncovers emotional overgiving. It shows you not just where you gave, but why. And once you understand your motivation, you can begin offering those same gifts back to yourself. That's how you begin to close the loop of self-abandonment. 4, the sacred tool, the 3-1 internal repair method. Every time a trigger hits, a memory, a photo, the fear that she replaced you, meet it with 3 self-manipulations. This mirrors the Gottman ratio of 5, 1 positive to negative interactions needed to sustain a healthy relationship. Example, trigger, you feel discarded. Repair, I am allowed to grieve what I gave. This choice says more about his capacity than my value. I won't have to be chosen to be worthy. The key is consistency. The brain learns through repetition. The more often you speak to yourself with clarity and compassion, the less you'll outsource your worth to someone else's decision. This isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about practicing the emotional habits that rebuild your identity after rupture. Letting him go may feel like loss, but holding on to someone who chose someone else costs you even more. Your dignity, your energy, your self-trust. And when you reclaim those, that's the real win. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come with a loud ending. It comes with a quiet fade, a shift in tone, a slower reply. And then one day, the announcement, the photo, the realization, he chose someone else. If that's you right now, I want to speak to the part of you that's exhausted, the part that gave your all, emotionally, mentally, physically, and still wasn't enough to be chosen. You're probably wondering, what did I miss? What did she have that I didn't? That question isn't just painful, it's misleading. Because the issue isn't about what you lacked, it's about what he wasn't equipped to hold. Here's the truth that most people won't tell you. Sometimes a man will choose comfort over connection, simplicity over substance, control over growth. Not because you were too much, but because you were unprotected, exposed, open, real. And yes, real can be intimidating. Maybe you overextended, explained too much, stayed longer than your dignity wanted to. You weren't weak, you were trying. You were trying to preserve something meaningful, but connection can't be carried alone. And if he chose someone else, let's name the wound directly. It wasn't just about losing him. It was about losing the version of yourself that kept hoping he'd come back and recognize your worth. But here's your mirror truth. Lean into it. What if you weren't too much, just unprotected? You weren't dramatic. You were honest. You weren't needy. You were emotionally available. You weren't too sensitive. You were attuned. And none of those qualities become liabilities in the right relationship. They become sacred. There comes a moment in every healing journey where the silence you feared becomes the space where you finally hear yourself. That's the goosebump moment when the voice in you, the one that once whispered, hold on, try harder, be softer, prove more, finally quiets, and a new voice rises. You don't have to shrink to be loved. You get to take up space. Letting go isn't abandoning love. It's choosing to stop abandoning yourself. That moment when you stop looking at her profile, when you stop replaying what you should have said, when you stop trying to understand his decision like it holds the map to your worth, that's when the breakthrough begins, not when he chooses you, but when you do. Here's your transformation statement. If being loved means losing myself, I choose to stay whole instead of being chosen. In detachment isn't cold. It isn't unloving. It's the sacred pause where you rebuild your boundaries, your center, and your clarity. It's where you stop performing for love and start becoming love to yourself. And when that shift takes root, you'll no longer ask, why didn't he stay? You'll ask, why did I ever believe I had to earn what should have been safe to receive? That's why you win. Earlier, we touched on a wound so many carry. The belief that if he chose another woman, it must mean something about you, that you are too much, not enough, or somehow forgettable. That love is something you compete for, and losing means you failed. But now, take a breath, because the deeper truth is clearer now. Love isn't something you chase to feel worthy. It's something you honor in yourself so deeply that you refuse to be where it isn't returned. He didn't choose better, he chose differently. And his decision does not get to rewrite your value. You're not the woman who wasn't enough. You are the woman who no longer waits to be chosen to feel complete. This is the shift. You're not the one left behind. You are the one walking forward, lighter, wiser, whole. And when your heart wants to spiral, remember what you now know. Letting go of who left doesn't make you lonely. It makes space for you to come home to yourself.